And we are live. Welcome. Monday is the best of the week, best day of the week because we have DCA live. Welcome, James, Ivan. How are you guys?
Great.
Fantastic.
Good morning, everybody.
Good to be
Happy
back.
Monday. Still an ugly September, which this guy's been here, my little bear, for a long time. But he'll go away soon, though. I give him 19 more days and he's gone, hopefully.
Oh, you switched it? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No, I'm
I
good,
switch
I'm
it
good.
between a bear and a bull whenever it just reflects my sentiment. So,
Got it.
That's great. We have a packed agenda today. We will talk about macro. Is it reversing? Will it be pump fuel for Bitcoin? We have capacity drops in Lightning Network. What does it mean? A miner came out last week and really flooded the halving narrative. Is that narrative dead or is it not? Let's talk about it. I had Solana phone on my channel last week. Ivan has a copy of the phone. James, we always joke about, Solana support. We will talk about it and what does it mean for consumer adoption. And a lot of alts have been tanking today. Is it because of the FTX selling threat ahead or is it something else? We will talk about Vitalik and his privacy proposal. Prime Trust bankruptcy and what it means for self-custody. Basically, they lost the funds because they lost the access to their wallet. What does that mean for self-custody in general? We will talk about which chains have the money. Where is the money? Vitalik's Twitter has been hacked. Who is safe? What are the practices? What are the learnings we can all take from that? If he can be hacked, anyone can be hacked. And finally, I thought we'd try some forward looking and see if we can scout the next trends in crypto for the next cycle. Anything I missed, guys?
Nope. We can also, anything pops up in the news stream, we can tackle as well. And of course,
someone
what the
writing
audience
in a comment, Ivan brushed his hair to join the show with CTO and James. We talked about haircuts here before. I said it's one of those problems I don't have because I don't have so much hair, but you guys have hair. James, you had the haircut.
Yeah. Hair shaved once every 3 weeks. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's look at what is happening in the markets. And I thought to start with this. We have something happening in the DXY, the dollar strength index. It's taking a nosedive today, close to resistance. I have talked about this, that we're close to resistance on the bonds. And many times, if these charts move down, Bitcoin moves up. And that is because it's Bitcoin. How many dollars you need to buy one Bitcoin? If the dollar gets weaker, the Bitcoin price as measured in dollars tend to go up. That's the logic. And then if the dollar is going to reverse and start getting weaker, is that the pump fuel we need or is this just magic lines? What do you guys think? What's happening in the macro?
Well, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'll take this one first. There's so much happening on the macro side of the fence. A lot of talk now. Fed now sees all the damage that they're doing. There's a lot of Fed members that are very, very concerned that if they keep on turning the screws, they're going to break more stuff. They believe inflation is under control, but really it's not because oil is nearly at $90. It's gone up 30%, I think, in 90 days. And that's something that the Fed does not control. Again, some of the officials are very nervous. They're most probably, like all the odds say, there'll be no more rate hikes from now on. The question is, when will there be a cut? And their money printing has already been happening in different kind of subterfuge ways between the bank bailout program and Ukraine money and other spending in other areas. So it's kind of crazy. But all in all, I think if the Fed does come out in September and say something, or whatever their next meeting is, no, I think it is September, and they say bullish stuff, that could be fuel for the end of the year, but that won't happen until I think October. September is just always a bumpy month. That's why you move to part cash to be able to take such opportunities. But there's lots of other stuff going on. But the macro itself is terrible. Bankruptcies are exploding. Delinquencies are exploding. Commercial real estate is about to explode. people don't have any money. In the US, for example, Americans going to start paying their student loans after being forgiven payments for years and years. It's really bad. But that doesn't affect the markets. Markets are always forward looking. That's what people get confused. They think, oh, the macro is really bad, therefore everything's going to crash. But that's not how it works. My take.
Yeah.
Ivan, what's your take? You mentioned something about DXY on your channel.
Yeah, I have one word, and that's Bidenomics. It's crazy because Biden, he tries, like his team, they're trying to push that Biden is so great for economy, Bidenomics, it's so cringe, everyone sees it doesn't work, and yet again, they pay some influencers, I heard. I just saw yesterday a guy on Twitter, he was shilling Bidenomics, and then it was a community note on Twitter that said, yeah, I mean, this is all fake news. But what I want to say is that Biden, he really wants this Bidenomics to be good, and at least his team, I don't know if Biden wants anything, by the way, but his team at least, like his so-called handlers. So, Bidenomics, listen, it doesn't work with this interest rate. They can get Bidenomics going if they decrease it, if Janet Yellen taps Jerome Powell on the shoulder and says, listen, we have a hard time here. The interest rate is getting way higher than before. It's now more than our military budget just to pay the interest rate, service the debt. So I think it's inevitable. And you see Poland already started to cut. They have 10% inflation. They start to cut. Why? Because of election. And so these guys in the White House, they need the Bidenomics going. And if you think about it, it's a very interesting election because the other guys like Vivek and Trump, I mean, they're very different when it comes to, for example, Ukraine stance. When it comes to many stances, it seems that the new challengers, they're really challenging the mainstream, the establishment. I'm not sure what's going on behind the scene, but if we assume that there is some kind of, greater power deep state, and they want to keep Biden in position, they really need the Bidenomics, guys. So I think that it's inevitable. I think that they have to decrease it. The question is when. Now that the summer holidays are over, people back in office, Janet Yellen back in office. Let's see how when she opens up her computer, her book, how it looks like. Maybe she gets spooked and it really tells Jerome to act. I don't know how much communication there is. They should be separated, but we all know that in many cases they're not. The Treasury and the Fed. And yeah, well, what do you guys think? I'm curious to hear your opinions as well on this Bidenomic election perspective.
For sure. I mean, I think we talked about it as I think politicians, of course, they want to serve the country. They want to do the best for the country according to what they think is best. Then it can be factually right or wrong, but I think generally many of them want that. But there's one thing they want even more, and that's what can come in closer to the election. Then they want to win the next election, right? So what we often see in all countries, and I don't think US is any exception, is that kind of get more lenient towards the towards the election, and you kind of say, yeah, let's ease up a little bit on that, and let's do some more benefits here and there, and let's not be so tough on the markets, and think about all the people that we're injuring and so on. So for sure that will come as we approach the election in 2024. The question is what will happen now, like today, right? Because today the dollar strength index has taken a big dive. See if I enlarge this. Dollar strength index has taken a big dive, and many times that means that Bitcoin pumps, but it hasn't. Bitcoin is right at support. It has dumped and it has not pumped yet. And of course, the yield hasn't really fallen back yet. It's still very close to this dangerous resistance line. If it breaks out there, I'm pretty sure we will get a major dump in Bitcoin, but it hasn't broken out yet, and Bitcoin is still at support. So I don't know, I'm hoping it bounces here, or is it breaking support while we're having the stream? We will see.
Yeah,
we will see.
Looking pretty weak.
Maybe we should, we have to play some more Respect the Pump music
No, but in general,
we will see.
If we just look next year, like, yes, I mean, we're going down now, and the DXY is still high, but it kind of going down. What do you guys think in general we're gonna see this? Well, you, CTO, you say yes, but James, do you talk about this on your channel about the election and how that will have an effect?
Yeah, in fact, elections typically, I covered that, in fact, yesterday. There is a direct correlation between elections and Bitcoin price action. And my theory, and I think theory of others, is, as you rightly said at the very beginning, Let's see if I can pull up my slide from yesterday. But a lot of people think there's many factors that drive Bitcoin price. Is it global liquidity? Is it election cycles? But Bitcoin price does tend to peak around the time of US presidential elections because the Federal Reserve tends to print more money at the time of the run-up to elections to pander to the voters. And the increased money supply ultimately leads to inflation, which makes Bitcoin more attractive as an investment. It's like circular. And I think that's part of it. But there's many other things too that are going on. But net, people say that the Fed is kind of independent. They have been pretty independent so far this year, despite the cries from the Democrats to stop doing what they're doing. They continue to do it. I think because this guy JP wants to have his Volcker moment, but he has caused a lot of suffering and a lot more suffering too. If you are a small business or if you are General Motors and you're trying to raise money right now, and money is the oil that runs the machines, you can't. There is no money. And if you do get it, you're going to be paying 10% for it if you have any type of risk at all in your business. So
exactly. So to answer Mr. Keyframes here, that is exactly what James is saying, that politicians tend to be more generous with the money printing closing to the election. Correct. Yeah. So let's switch gears. And we will come back to the narrative and the cycle narrative. But one thing that has come up that kind of touches a little bit on another discussion we will have is that there has been a kind of drop in this Lightning network capacity from July today until today. It has still gone up if we zoom out, if you look on like a multi-year horizon, but it's the first time that there has been this kind of drop in Lightning network capacity. And I thought we could use, oh, sorry, I need to share this. Hang on. So here we see in 1 year perspective, we see that it has kind of fallen back to about the levels it was 1 year ago. And here we see it's the first time that we've had this big drop in number of BTC capacity in the Lightning network. And I thought we could use that as an intro to talk about that. What is happening? Why isn't this increasing? Is Lightning Network a thing, or is it other solutions that start kind of taking that use case? Do you have any reflections on this?
Yeah, I can take this one first. So, I mean, to me, it's always a bit strange because a lot of people I respect in Bitcoin, I see that they praise Lightning, and it's almost like they're blind, where they don't see that the use cases and actual use of Lightning is quite low, and especially all of it is quite centralized. In most Lightning wallets, they're centralized, where basically you don't really run your node, you don't own the channels. And there is this like dissonance, just like Biden is pushing Bidenomics is fantastic, and then the real world is very different. Sometimes I get the feeling when I watch the Bitcoin space that it's very similar, that they're pushing, yeah, Lightning is great. You should not do a coin on ETH. You should do your coin on Lightning. And then it's a big dissonance because in reality, it's very impractical. There are not a lot of self-custodial wallets. There's even this joke that sometimes I hear people say that NFT bros who are like looked down upon, if you're a Bitcoin maxi, you look down on all of the ETH guys, especially all of the NFT guys who buy JPEGs. Well, NFT guys, they have self-custody. They normally control their keys and they have full control of their wallet. While in Lightning, many users use centralized wallets. And that's a big problem. And I think in general, we need more exchanges to adopt. I think I heard Kraken is gonna adopt and maybe Coinbase. And it's going to be interesting to see the demand and the use for it. But also, you should follow Eric Wall if you don't on Twitter. I think he is very good intellectual thinker in terms of being honest, being very honest, looking at the tech and seeing, is this really the best solution for scaling Bitcoin? And he's been trying to sync Lightning nodes and run it and use it. And if you don't use a custodial Lightning wallet, it's super hard. So yeah, in general, I would like the Bitcoin community to be more intellectually honest and listen, is this the only way we can scale Bitcoin? There are probably many different ways you can scale Bitcoin. There is not this religious approach with Lightning. But yeah, that's my biggest problem. And let me know, guys, in the chat, and you guys here, James and CTO, what you guys think. Do you use Lightning yourself? And most importantly, have you looked into how the wallet works? Because even if you tried Lightning, most likely it's a custodial approach where the channels and everything is not really tied to your wallet.
Yeah, I haven't used it in a long time. Tried it once, and I remember the user experience wasn't very nice, and I think that deters a lot of users too. Also, I think it goes back to real simple terms. If you look at the amount of Bitcoin that's moved over the last 30 days, 95% has not moved. So people are not selling, they're not moving Bitcoin around, they're not making payments with Bitcoin. There's been, of course, the decline in prices coming up to the halving. People are afraid to let it go, I think. And also, I think there's also general lack of awareness about the Bitcoin Lightning Network. And that's affecting kind of adoption too as we go forward. It's not going to be the savior that everybody thought it was. If you go back to 2021, 2022, you heard people like Saylor and Jack Dorsey and others saying, Lightning is going to save the world. But no, we need a better version of Lightning, especially as we go forward in the future. But it's not there yet right now, in my opinion.
Comments in the chat is about Bitcoin dumping. Let's look at the price action. And yeah, we are still at this support. I've said, maybe I should blow this up a little bit. I've said many times that if we're going to turn here and run up to the 30K level again, I think if there is manipulation in this market, it would make sense to run the stops first, so run a little bit below the previous low, so everyone sells and short, and then run it back up. And if these reject here, if DXY dumps and US 2-year yield rejects, Bitcoin price should really go up. And then if it dumps instead, I would at least be suspicious on that price action. It could be manipulation, people trying to trigger everyone's stops and then run it back 2 hours later. Of course, I don't know what's going to happen, but at least consider that possibility, guys. I've said it before, and now it seems like it could be happening right now. Let's see. Very interesting. But yeah, I think so too with the Lightning network. I have not tried it, run own nodes and so on. I read how to do it, and I felt this is probably too complicated, perhaps, for real big use. It's going to be a few custodial operators who run the Lightning nodes and then have a consumer-oriented service where you have a database, basically. That was my feeling. A lot of complications, actually. And I've seen many people saying that they've tried it and transactions failed. And then there's always someone in the comments saying, yeah, but it's because you didn't do this parameter correct, or you don't know how to run the node correctly, and that's why it's failed. You're an idiot. Okay, but if it's like that difficult, people who are actually trying still can't get it right. I don't know. I'm skeptical.
So I think what needs to happen is that some kind of layer 2 or layer 1, they build something for Bitcoin just to show it, because I think the price is quite big. It would be very nice to scale Bitcoin. I see someone saying that Solana is layer 2 for Bitcoin. I mean, whether Solana or someone else, they should show a proof of concept, and maybe they become the winner of the Bitcoin L2s, where you somehow merge the cryptography, because the difficult part will be the cryptography, because this ZK tech is not fully compatible with the way Bitcoin works and how it's cryptographically built. That's why ETH either has already changed how they work a bit to be more compatible with layer 2s, or they will. I don't remember if that was in the last fork or the coming one. But it's a massive price. We need someone to show that Lightning is not the only way to scale, and the winner of that, it's a big opportunity.
Definitely, because scaling is needed, 100%. And I just feel we're not quite there yet, maybe with the technology. But let's see. Let's see. It is interesting, after all, that this trend changed around. Now, when we're in the price action, let's look at the next topic. Halving narrative. Is this opportunity to buy? Because, halving is coming, presidential election is coming next year. Is this opportunity, or is the halving narrative dead? And we had the post that kind of triggered this topic was an interview with the CEO of Mora, one of the largest Bitcoin miners, who basically said that he didn't believe in the halving narrative and the cycle, and he kind of was skeptical to that and a little bit negative. And James, you have great insights here into the miners, and you said something interesting.
Well, it's very well. The miners are probably some of the hardest companies to analyze because there's so many factors that drive price. It's the electricity rate that they pay, it's the age of the rigs, it's their balance sheet, it's how much debt they have, how much stock issuance dilution they do, how much overhead, etc. And it's crazy to see some of the original players are actually some of the weakest players, and some of the best players are the newcomers that have come into the space. But there are many different factors here. I think that write-up on that Twitter about Marathon, it was never one of my favorites. It's actually bottom 3 from all the miners that I analyze, because it's just not structured with the way it should be, and the market cap per hash is very high. But I think that Twitter write-up was a little bit unfair, because I did watch the video and I thought the CEO was being kind of reasonable. But the truth is, though, the halving will have a huge effect on the miners unless the price, as I say, if it's not between $50,000 and $55,000, half the rigs that are out there will have to be turned off, because they're not going to be able to make it. They'll be burning electricity and not able to make their engines, their ASICs, run at a profitable way, and that's going to be huge. So basically, you got to look for the miners with the least overhead, the least amount of debt, the most modern rig infrastructure. Like we're talking 25 to maybe 29 joules per terahash. That's kind of the cutoff point. If they're not there, there could be toast. And that's where we are. So it'll be interesting to watch. Miners have been incredibly good this year from a return. I actually own 2 of them, a very big position in one and a tiny position in another. And it's been mind-blowing, the returns both playing up and down. But, just be careful with the miners. The ones that you think are the biggest and the best, not necessarily are the biggest and the best.
Yeah, they tend to become more volatile, right? Because if Bitcoin goes up, they will be hugely profitable, and if it goes down, they become bankrupt almost, right? So it becomes like a leverage position on the industry, right, as a whole. Yeah. Ivan, do you believe in the halving cycle, or is that narrative dead?
Yeah, I just want to say what James said there. If you actually watch the video, it's not as dramatic as the tweet. I don't know why he wrote the tweet like this, but if you watch the video, I also got another impression after the video. But yeah, I mean, he discussed a bit how big of an impact the halving has, and his conclusion was that based on his own company, whether they earn how many Bitcoin is per day. Anyway, he had whether we earn this or 50% less, for him, it wouldn't matter too much in terms of how much he would sell, and in terms of how much he would dump the price. So that was his main point, the way I understood it. And overall, when it comes to halving, it's exactly the same as 4 years ago. I remember sitting here 4 years ago and we were saying, is it priced in? Is it not priced in? Everyone knows about the halving, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it was not priced in. But now it seems that even more people should know about it. But still, we're kind of seen as a scam industry still. Still, many people are not in crypto. So overall, is it really priced in globally? Probably not. Is it priced in here in crypto? Well, we're all here watching this as like hawks. So most likely, a lot of us have already taken positions, being ready for the halving. So that's kind of the definition of priced in. But globally, I don't think it's priced in. I thought it would be kind of priced in 4 years ago, but clearly it wasn't. But it may take a few months after the halving, because I remember last time we had the halving and then it was still depressing, and then we even had that massive drop to like 3K after the halving, and then we went to all-time highs. So most likely it will have an effect, but patience will be needed. It will not be on the day. It will probably be towards the end of the year next year that we will see price moving.
Oh, interesting. Let's press on the agenda. We had the Solana phone. I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk about the greater topic of consumer adoption. How far ahead are we? We have covered that several times on the channel before. I don't know if it will be possible to hear the audio here.
Not yet.
Could you hear that, or it was not audible?
Nope.
Not okay. So Marquez, the world's best consumer tech reviewer, he said that this phone it becomes the perfect embodiment of crypto in 2023. At best, it's ahead of its time, but at worst, completely useless to most everyday people. That's what his summary was. And is it correct? Is that a fair statement to say that crypto is completely useless to most everyday people? My take on this, I made a whole video, so I won't repeat it here, but my take was that I really like what Solana has done here. They have to try to take control of the whole experience, because there's no way that Apple will let them do all the stuff that's needed to create a good user experience end to end, because you can't get the app on the App Store. You can't do anything basically you want to do. So the only way to do it is to do a complete end-to-end experience. And I really like that Solana tried to do that. But then maybe they, didn't reach all the way in the first iteration. But I think that's really what is needed. What are your takes here? So Ivan, you have actually tried the phone. I haven't.
Yeah, James, do you want to go first as the Solana tech support in our gang?
Before I jump into the Solana tech support, to reiterate again, everybody thinks I am all in on Solana. I'm looking at my allocations right now. Let me see. I am now about 2.98% Solana. Okay, that's my position size. My biggest position by far is a company called Tesla, which has just exploded lately. Second biggest position is Bitcoin. So just for people to understand that, it is. I want to get that out of the way. Now, I think the type of things that.
Don't be shy, James. Tesla is up 7% today, 7.1%.
Yeah, it's up $18. Yeah. And but it was a crazy gift this year. I've been in Tesla since about 2017, but when we had earlier this year, late last year, the weakness down to $104, it was just an insane buying opportunity. And again, in full disclosure, I actually flipped Bitcoin into Tesla to the ire of Bitcoin maxis. It's like, why would you do that? Well, look at the returns, 150% over the last few months versus Bitcoin doing 20%. So that's kind of the reason. Anyway, back to the phone. I think, you as a telco guy, what the Solana team are doing is very, very interesting. They want to build a consumer chain that can be widely adopted. Their strategy from the day one has been to a path to 1 billion users onto crypto using the chain. The news last week, we had 3 huge pieces of news. Despite the FUD about the phone, who cares about the phone? They didn't expect to sell 11,000 or 15,000 of them anyway. And I think it's part of a test, kind of testing the market. If you're not pushing the boundaries, you're never going to change the game or disrupt a market. So I think what they've done there is very, very good. And I think the price now as well, people thought the price was $1,200 now. I think it's $599. I'm not sure, that could be $699, but they cut the price. And compared to a $1,200 iPhone, it's an option. But back to what they were trying to do last week, we had huge news between Visa choosing them for stablecoin payments. The favored altcoin from an investment fund perspective. And the third piece of news, the MakerDAO stuff as well. That was just a huge week. Now we've got that huge gray cloud of FTX FUD hanging over our head. So again, I still think nothing has changed. The only thing that's changed is the amount of FUD and the anxiety and hatred and toxicity. We just weather the storm. We know the future's bright. And these are the opportunities. This is why we have cash for August and September to deploy at these crazy good prices. So right now I see, by the way, a very solid support level at $17.50 for Solana. But if things really get ugly out there, we could fall down to like $13.50, $14. But when people, thumbnails with $3 Solana, don't wait for the $3 Solana. It's like waiting for the $3,000 Bitcoin. It's not going to happen. So there's just too much tailwinds behind the chain. Just my take. And I'm not the Solana help desk.
So Ivan, what's your take on the whole phone and the consumer tech, crypto consumer tech?
Yeah, I agree with you, CTO, that the phone, which looks like this, by the way, guys. Let me see if I can. Oh, it has no battery, but it's like black, quite. It looks quite good overall impression when you unbox it. But my big problem is the value add, because it is an Android phone with a wallet installed, but you still need to write down your seed phrase. And that was my biggest hope, that you would not have to write down the seed phrase. That somehow they would use the biometric stuff here and like the power of the tech to ensure that you can use it without being this crypto banker person where you have to write it down. And sadly, you need to write down the seed phrase. But once you have written it down, then you can use this thing on the back with your finger to confirm transactions, which is good. I like that. The overall phone, they did it very quickly. I heard in a podcast that it took them just a few months to ship it. So this is a lot an off-the-shelf solution, which means that it's not fully polished. So for example, one problem I had is that you cannot do eSIM. So you need a physical SIM card. It's impossible to do this virtual one. Also, I'm not sure it had NFC. Maybe it has, but I think I tried it and I don't think it worked, although I may be wrong there. Don't quote me on that. So overall, it's not fully finished as a phone, but also they did it in a few months. So it's more of an experiment. It's more of a prototype was possible. And I think now Solana, they have to decide if this is something they want to continue doing. Maybe it just was a prototype to see the demand, like how are people going crazy for this phone or not? And I think the result we will know the result, because either they don't do a follow-up and then it wasn't a big success, or they do a follow-up because then they see that there is some future here. But overall, this is a must. I think this is a must if you are an early adopter, you are in crypto. I mean, it's I don't know how much it was. I think it was like $1,000. So just to test it, so you know what's happening firsthand. You don't need to hear it from us, but just to have it, so you know what it is, how it works. To me, it was very, very helpful from that perspective. But can you use it as your daily driver? If you have, for example, iPhone, I don't think you will be using it, guys, because it's not fully finished. And if you use an Android, maybe you're gonna use it. But I think even the top of the line Android phones have this nice to have details like eSIM, NFC, that also will make it a bit weird. But here's what you can do. You can use it as a burner phone. If you want a burner phone that you use only for signing some Solana stuff, or even non-Solana, because this works with other blockchains as well. I think that use case is good, that you can have. Maybe you never even connect it to the internet if you don't sign something. You just use it for signing. You don't download anything. That could be a use case, actually. So. Yep. As conclusion, is it like a daily driver? I mean, honestly, it's not a daily driver. Is it a good thing to test and experiment, innovate, be early adopter? Yes. And burner phone? Yes. And like secure device for only signing stuff.
That's a very good summary. In fact, that's a very good security note as well that I always stress. Have dedicated devices for dedicated activities if you can afford them. Don't use one machine for everything.
My prediction is that someone is going to build the device that is actually doing all those things, that doing all the things that Ivan said, takes care of the seed phrase, so you don't need to have it on the paper that you can lose or someone finds, solve all the problems, basically. So we have at least the proof of concept that this is how great crypto can be for the everyday consumer, as Marquez puts it, because I do think that he's right. I think that we're not really there. Your average grandma cannot take out all her money from the pension account and put it in DeFi today on MetaMask and then expect to live on that. That's not going to work because it's simply too difficult to use. So that's my take on that one. Let's press on a little bit. A big topic today and yesterday has been these possible liquidations that FTX is asking for permission to sell. And Solana was at the top there, though I think that actually those are vesting contracts, not coins that they can go and market dump. Still, these are substantial volumes in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And in quite a few other coins. What are your takes on this? Is this what's moving the markets, or what is happening here? Who wants to go
clear
first?
I think the court case ahead of time was basically all because they would be dumping. So all the action you've seen before has been market manipulation around the dumping. That's the first big part of that. Then when you add up all the different pieces, there's concern over the FTX dumping. It rattles retail investors. Their hands get shaken free. When you break down the actual amount for sale, a lot of it's still in lockup till 2025, 2026, etc. So when you look at the amount that's available for sale or circulating, the amount is not, it's bad. Again, as I say, things could fall down to $13, $14 if a huge amount of dump happens. But the people that are dumping it know they want to maximize the return. Therefore, they're going to trickle it out. So it could be a dark cloud over the price action for this. But to see all the other assets as well being hit as well in unison, it's not too bad. So I don't know where this is going to go. It's another kind of kick in the face for Solana holders, especially after all the news last week. But again, when you look forward to adoption and everything else in the next bull run, it's an exciting place to be. Again, my thesis since early 2021, beginning 2021, with this one ETH killer, this is it. I don't see another one yet. I see layer 2s coming up and taking some good market share and helping Ethereum, but their tokenomics suck. So you're not going to make any money on those either. So that's where we are. Blunt assessment.
What's your take? You had an interesting point about getting the bad things out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, many people say that this lockup is bullish, and short term it is, but also there is a lot of value in just getting it all dumped today, so we can just resume with the bull market, and that there is no more uncertainty. We remove this bearishness, and once they dump, they dump. Okay, now we only go up. So there is value in just dumping it out of the way as soon as possible. But also, that being said, historically, when we had these bankruptcy cases, I just don't remember any of them really affecting the market too much. When I think about Mt. Gox, I don't know if they still sold, by the way. It's been for years that, oh, now they're gonna sell, watch out, guys, the Mt. Gox trustee is dumping. I'm not even really sure what happened to that, but I do remember that I never noticed any big dump from any of the bankruptcies. So that's another important thing to keep in mind. So, I mean, as always with the markets, nothing is super clear. There's some bullishness, some bearishness. So it's good that it's locked up. It's good that historically bankruptcies don't affect the market too much, at least in my memory. And in a way, you can say that it would be even better if they could just like dump it and we move on. And I mean, obviously, they're not gonna dump like market dump. Because they have this fiduciary duty, right? So they need to at least use their brain a bit to dump in a careful way. So yeah, that's my view on it. But long term, like James says, for Solana, it's only good that this FTX thing disappears and all of the problems with it go away, which will happen sooner or later.
Exactly. And also the FUD machine of crypto and the tribalism of crypto is something that is just, I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing. But every time there is a piece of FUD like this, the market or the retail investor overreacts. So remember Robinhood, they said they're going to delist Cardano, Matic, and Solana. Everybody freaked out. The price did nothing. Nothing happened. Then every year you've got, tax selling concerns. Nothing happened. As you say, the Mt. Gox cloud has been hanging there for what, 8 years? Nothing happened. So every time in history there's the fear like this, it ends up being a nothing burger. So, but the price action is still weak though, down at 17.5. No doubt it's lost $2.50 since all of this began, but that's just crypto. Again, it's not driven by fundamentals.
Oh, absolutely. This is just, no one has sold anything. That's what, I mean, it's all anticipation, right? It's speculation and what will happen in the future. And that can be manipulated to a big extent. So I think so too.
Well, the manipulators did come in and play. So I think somebody did move 128,000 SOL to a Binance wallet to dump it and then buy it back cheap. So that old Bitcoin game is happening now at Solana. That's why the price fell down. So what they do, they dump a bunch, rattle retail investors, retail sell because they can buy in cheaper later, and then the whale comes back in and buys it all back. So that's basically the playbook that's been happening since the beginning of time in crypto.
Do you think this is what's driving the price today? People are worried for this Bitcoin, Ethereum in the Solana case?
Why Bitcoin is selling off?
Yeah.
Part of it, yeah. It's fun. But if you look at the way Bitcoin bounced off 25K, really, really interesting.
But I see on Twitter now, guys, that probably the reason why it accelerated it, I'm just looking at Twitter right now. So FTX has, so this is new clarification on this FTX situation. So FTX has 7 billion in assets, including 38 properties in Bahamas, worth over 200. And then I see some more tweets. So probably it is this, that the market is spooked yet again because of the same news with FTX. Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Be the contrarian, guys. That's my general tip. Very interesting. Very interesting. Finally, something is happening.
You need exactly. You need some beat here. We need to pump the beat and we need to pump the mood. I see. We become so sad. We have to like increase the music here. That's what I have on my stream when I like. Okay, guys, let me pump the beat, and then you press a button and the beat comes.
Exactly. We need to add that. I mean, looking at Bitcoin from an opportunity perspective, right now we're at support. I've said many times, I think good chances that we sweep the lows and then rock the price back up to 30K when everyone have given up and everyone have sold and so on. Not a prediction, but when everyone is sure that we're going lower, everyone has already sold and waiting for lower prices, then we might not get it and we might get a big pump instead. So that's I think this is exciting, actually. Very exciting. Very exciting. Let's press on. Vitalik privacy proposal. That was this this one, which is like a long, very technical proposal made by Vitalik Buterin, a few researcher from was it Basel University in Switzerland, Chainalysis chief scientist Jacob Illum, and Amin Soleimani, I don't know how it's pronounced exactly, who was a Tornado Cash contributor and also Spank Chain founder from 2017, if anyone was here and remember that very fun project. And he probably identified the need for privacy, because if people running business, maybe they don't want everyone to be able to see if someone paid for that. Maybe they don't want to have, their wallet backtracked. I'm just speculating that he discovered the need at that time. But we have talked about it many times, and I've said it many times on my channel. If doing some serious business, you can't have everything public. If you're like a big Fortune 500 company and you're doing deals, you cannot have all your business transactions public to everyone in the world. It's just not possible, because there are, trade secrets and contracts and stuff like that. And then the only privacy solutions that have exists have been outlawed, and they basically jailed the developers and everything. And then Vitalik and others came back with this very technical proposal, and and basically try to solve this in a way that is still compliant or regulatory compliant. Do you guys think that we're moving towards solutions to this, privacy problem, or is it not really solvable, or governments will crack down on it, whatever they try to do, as soon as there's privacy in the title?
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this?
I can start with that one, because there is a way cryptographically with ZK to prove that your address is not part of a list of addresses. So if the government has, for example, this OFAC list, you could cryptographically, with zero knowledge, prove that an address is not part of that. So you can prove, for example, your transaction history, that your transaction history has never received anything from like this blacklisted addresses. So I think that's the lowest hanging fruit that we have with ZK, proving this kind of things. And that's very beautiful, that you can prove something without showing the full transaction. And I think the establishment, they will have to find new arguments, because they always say, oh, but it's because we have to protect, and yeah, terrorism and all of that, sanctions. But okay, we can do it without showing the full history. And it will be interesting to see if they change their way, how they explain their need for total control, or if they gonna be okay with it. I don't know, but it is mathematically possible to do. Absolutely, that you can prove that you haven't interacted with some addresses that they have in a list.
Do you have any thoughts on this, James?
Yeah, quite a few. First of all, everybody always asks me about privacy coins, and I say, well, privacy coins will never attract institutional money because governments don't like them. Therefore, they're probably not a good investment. The ins and outs of exactly what Vitalik is promising, if he can strike that balance between not violating regulations and still helping with privacy, regarding validation of the origination of funds without disclosing all the details. I don't understand exactly what all the details they're leaving out to protect privacy, but that would be a very interesting game plan, and that could really help. It is critical, but striking that balance is definitely very difficult, especially when the regulators don't even know what crypto is. You're benchmarking against a target you can't even understand. So that's why it's interesting. And I love the way Vitalik thinks. He always, his papers are incredible every time he puts them together. And I'm just very impressed with the guy.
The most important case for us to follow is this Tornado Cash. I don't know when they're gonna start, because he's been jailed without like any indictment or anything for quite some. But I think they started some procedure now, because that's where we're gonna see the difference between what Vitalik speaks about and what Tornado Cash has. Because Tornado Cash, in ways, like functionally, it's very similar, that you can do things privately, but if you have your key, you can always get full audit. So Tornado Cash, they always had the opportunity for you to be audited if you want. And the same thing is with Secret Network. You have your secret key, and if you have it, then you can see all transaction history. Good for auditing. But it's going to be interesting to see what they accuse the Tornado Cash of, Tornado devs of. I suppose they're going to go after that he made money on the transactions and stuff like that. But that's the one case that will set the record straight, how the government thinks.
Oh, interesting. Let's press on. And because one theme that I think we're coming back to, we have is consumer readiness, privacy, which is needed for business, and another thing, which is the whole area of self-custody, which is the prime trust bankruptcy. Because what happened here, that's why this case is interesting, is that the prime trust CEO, Richard Lai, detailed how the company found itself locked out of its own cold storage wallet and losing access to millions in deposited assets. And then apparently they kept sending tokens to that wallet, which was already locked, and they didn't discover until later that they had, basically locked up a lot more coins in that wallet. And then when they identified that it's kind of, the company is already bankrupt, they cannot get the money out. And then I see that some of the arguments is that, but they didn't know how to use it right, and that's why they got locked out and so on. But is the whole self-custody, is it too difficult? If a company here basically has this as business model, can't do it right, they, I don't know, lost the seed phrase or something. Is this too difficult for at this stage? What do you think?
Well, I first of all get very suspicious, because if they are professional custodians, you don't make this type of mistake. You double check, you triple check, you've got all sorts of backup plans, multi-sig wallets, etc. This should never happen. Second of all, what happens, and this is what we saw in 2022, you have poop heads, idiots, that kind of, okay, we lost our keys, we have a hole, but it's okay, we're going to make it back up because we're going to YOLO into Luna or something. And then they lose even more, and they get into this death spiral of a hole. And this also happens to retail investors, and it happens to people that manage money. But I think what's also really interesting is how these scumbags didn't disclose when they lost everything. And all the other companies that were impacted by this, Swan Bitcoin, iTrust Capital, etc., then they shuffle the Prime Trust into Fortress Trust. Same team, different name. And then, of course, maybe Fortress Trust lost a ton of money too. And then they push it off to Ripple. And Ripple can issue XRP to fill the hole. So here we are. Again, circular stuff. It's just,
well,
it's beyond the Wild
I didn't
West.
know that. So Prime Trust, they rebranded to Fortress Trust, right? Is that what you're saying?
It's the same team, same state. If you check one guy, he was actually head of custody or customer service or something. I can't remember his name. He deleted all reference to Prime Trust in his LinkedIn profile, and it became Fortress Trust. They're all, what happens behind the doors is kind of, and this is all allegedly, just stuff I've read on Twitter from other people, not my words, just reading other people's tweets. Allegedly, have to stress that. But it is, that lack of transparency, the lack of admitting you've lost funds, the lack of transparency. Okay, I YOLO'd into token X, lost another $8 million. That is just criminal. There needs to be prosecution for this.
But it's a good point, because of course there's a difference between doing a mistake and because some mistakes are criminal and some mistakes are not criminals. And I'm sure that a lot of these bankruptcies, they're going to go into exactly that. For all these companies that have gone bankruptcy, we're adding 10 companies, something like that, major companies, and I'm sure the courts will go into that and say if these actions were criminal or not. And I mean, I have no idea, I'm not a lawyer, but that's definitely because, as you point out, there could be an incentive to say it wasn't this mistake, it was that mistake, because maybe one of them is criminal and one isn't. Perhaps.
And the number one rule of PR is you come out immediately and you admit the mistake and you show everybody that's impacted. The problem is nobody's admitting anything. Prime Trust held funds on behalf of many different companies, but nobody is being open about it. And that would give me terrible concern. It's like you don't know what's happening behind the curtain. You don't know who's dealing with who. You don't know who's brushing things under the rug and pretending, everything's fine, we have all your crypto, when maybe the hole is bigger than they're admitting. Who knows? It's just flushing companies down the toilet, rebranding a new company, flushing it down the toilet, acquiring it by another company. It's just, it's craziness. It's the Wild West, like we've always said.
But
exactly.
There is one irony that is to me a bit funny. So I'm not really deep into this, but the way I know it is because I see some people commenting that Swan Bitcoin, which is this Bitcoin maxi company, that they had Prime Trust and they nearly escaped into Fortress Trust. And now I read a bit on Twitter. It seems that people are tweeting that it's like a repackaging and many clients just migrated. And now it's Ripple. So a Bitcoin maxi company is basically now a front end for Ripple company. So because I mean when you do this buy Bitcoin and everything is stored, it's just a front end. So anyway, quite funny. I'll read more about that. But so Fortress Trust and Prime Trust, there may be some connections that we don't even I didn't even know about. At least I'm gonna check more.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's say we have a few topics left. Where is the money on which chain? It's something that we have talked about a few times. And let's look at a few perspectives here. I'll make this a little bit bigger. So here is DeFi Llama. Total value locked in all the different chains. This is Ethereum, 20 billion. Then it's Tron, BSC, 2 billion. And then the rest are like really small here, 1 billion. But one interesting reflection here is that, okay, so Ethereum is really dominating here. But why is this so small? Why is this only 20 billion? Ethereum as such market cap, even after today's dumping here, is 187 billion, which is much more than these 20 billion here. And even if we just look at, say, USDT has 39 billion on Ethereum and 42 billion on Tron. So why is there so little money in the whole DeFi? And even if saying, okay, but maybe the money is in NFTs. No, that's not so big either. The market cap of, Yak Club or the Yak Club or CryptoPunks is less than, is around 1.5 billion each. So where is the money? It's like DeFi still that small? Is it mostly just still speculation on the asset? Or where is the ecosystem? Who is, really, is this even relevant? Because here it looks like Ethereum is really dominating and no one else has really gotten anywhere. But they're all small. Do you see what I'm getting at here? So DeFi, Llama is saying that TVL in Ethereum is 20 billion. And then if we look at our favorite example here, Solana is like 200 million. But this is nothing compared to the market cap of the assets as such. Ethereum is 100 billion, Solana is 7 billion, and so on. So where is is there something that... Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, so one thing, I know Solana guys, they're chasing me because I said that Solana is so small on that pie chart. And they are saying, no, it's because so there is a big difference. In ETH, the staked ETH, it counts like DeFi in most of these like websites. They count ETH inside Lido, for example, as staked. And on Solana, when you stake, it doesn't count as DeFi. So that's one reason why Solana is so small. But it's it is indeed very small when you look at that chart. But it is a good point, like overall, what you say, CTO, that on ETH we have 22 billion locked. So it's like 20% of the entire ETH market cap, and then there's a lot of like tethers and stuff like that. My guess, without looking into the data, is that most of it is on centralized exchanges still. That the big wallets are centralized exchanges, and that's where still most of the trading is happening. So what would be interesting to see, like someone should do a chart of total value lock like DeFi and how it grows versus like the overall assets on the chain. And to me, the trend would be the most interesting because yes, it is small now, but is it growing or it's not growing or going down? But yeah, good point.
So my takeaway from this was I feel the upside is much bigger than I thought. That actually the whole DeFi is pretty small here. The whole NFT is really small if we compare with the size of the assets. Again, like looking at the biggest, if you're looking at the biggest NFT collections, CryptoPunks 700 million, Bored Ape Yacht Club is 400 million. While if we look at crypto as such, we're talking 500 billion for Bitcoin. Ethereum is 200 billion. Even if we go down for this list, we're talking about billions of dollars. And DeFi, according to this chart, then all the projects on Ethereum is 20 billion, while Ethereum is 200 billion.
Someone should have a chart on this. TVL divided by market cap. it seems to be like a standard thing this websites would have. Maybe you, James, have it in your database.
I do, but one of the things that also confuses people is some people think TVL also includes staked, but it doesn't. So I get that a lot.
Yeah, that's what I said. Exactly.
Yeah. And things also fluctuate very wildly. And you said 200 million TVL. That's different. My numbers say about 330 TVL. But again, there's no doubt that Ethereum is the 800-pound gorilla that dominates the space. And adoption still isn't there. We have a long way to go to really get to mainstream adoption. I think a lot of it is because despite the fact that DEX volumes are, in some cases like Uniswap does more volume than Coinbase, it still has an awful long way to go because there still isn't that level of trust, and the UI user experience is not what it should be, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, CTO, what you said, this is very bullish because there's a lot more upside to go for this space.
I think so too. That was my big realization from looking into this, and that's why I wanted to show it here. I think the upside is much bigger because actually all these projects are still really small. They haven't really taken off yet. If we look at how big crypto can go, if we look at the assets as such. So that's very interesting. Then I thought to talk a little about security, and then the last topic about what we see the next cycle trends will be. So Vitalik's Twitter got hacked. They were smart enough to hack Vitalik, but then they were not smart enough to write something that he could possibly have written when they tweeted to try to pump some scam NFT or something. But how are you guys thinking with security? I mean, Vitalik seemed like the guy who will never get hacked, and then then he gets hacked also. Who is safe then? Or how are you guys thinking around these things?
Yeah, I think it's pretty stunning that he did get hacked. Like, a guy with his technical prowess is really, really, really bizarre. But I think also you got to remember, this is not his Ethereum wallet getting hacked. This is Twitter profile has been compromised. He probably had a very complex password, but you can brute force it. Twitter doesn't have 2FA, or maybe it does now. I'm not sure, but I don't have it. You can log in from different IDs, handles, or emails. It's not like Twitter is a ironclad financial institution. So that's the problem. I think the CZ from Binance had the same problem where people tried to brute force his account and he got locked out a few times too. So I think now that this has come to light, and I know that Elon Musk follows Vitalik, he might beef up the security.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter has the 2FA with Google Authenticator, but they removed SMS 2FA as far as I know. But Authenticator they absolutely have. But it's always like this, the best practice and then you don't follow it. It's like I discussed today. Yeah. I have a guy, my friend. He said how great Bitcoin is in 2016. He told all his friends to buy Bitcoin in 2016. He didn't buy himself because he thought it's like bad timing, but he was saying like how good Bitcoin is. And the same thing is in this industry. Like, we all know how to have self-custody, and yet many people still were affected by FTX. And the same thing probably with Vitalik. He knows about 2FA. Maybe he just thought that Twitter is such an unimportant service that he didn't have the energy to set it up. But also it could be that there's a problem with Twitter, because in 2021 or 2020, YouTube accounts got hacked, mine including my account, where I had 2FA and I had everything. And yet a scammer started live streaming. And it happened to me, to Box Mining, like to many other YouTubers. And we all had, I swear to God, we had 2FA. And I asked Google support what happened. They confirmed that there was like no breach of account, but they still get access. But then like I asked for details and the support guy exit scammed. He didn't want to share more. So there was definitely something going on there. It didn't hit the news, but I have personal experience where I had everything, and still. So that's an attack vector. We cannot forget that Twitter themselves, they're not super safe most likely, because okay, we love Elon. He's super efficient business owner, fired 80%, but I mean, do they have all the staff necessary for all the security? I don't know. It's very possible that, because you see that it's still people on the other side. Someone runs the Twitter database. if they have a problem there, some staff gets compromised, it's very possible. So the conclusion: don't trust anything on Twitter, guys. What you're seeing, even from legit accounts, they are either hacked or they may just be, Twitter may have a problem.
I think it's a good perspective. I mean, I was going to say two things here. One is that you cannot trust the SIM card, because SIM swap is a real thing. It happened a couple of weeks ago to some other people. I saw Peter Brandt and so on. That and I talked a little with him, and they had basically gone into a phone store in the US and convinced the person that there was some emergency, and they got them to switch the phone number to another SIM card, and then they can reset passwords. So that's one thing. Don't rely on SMS to reset password, because the SIM swap scam is real and it hasn't been solved in so many years. And it's procedures with operator that isn't working. Then this is really true also, because in all these services, there will sit some support people, maybe low-paid support people in low-cost countries. Yeah. And they will have some sort of manual override, like the person is clearly, well intended. It will be someone has locked out from their account. They can't get in. They verified it's the right person. They just, unlock them. Unlock password, here, send the password. There will be some system like that. And then someone comes to that person who maybe, earns $800 a month and says, hey, okay, here's $20,000 if you unlock this one. And he's going to take the money, unlock. He's going to get fired later because, of course, there's some logging and he'll get fired, but he's already, way out the door by that time. Things like that can happen. Absolutely. One thing that can't happen in crypto, because there is no person to call and unlock your self-custody Bitcoin. So that's definitely an aspect. There is only one secure system for ownership in the digital space that can't be hacked, and that is blockchain. That is the blockchain technology. So if we move on to the next point then, a few minutes over time, but what are your thoughts? It's something we've talked about many times, but it's good to come back to it. If we are prepared and start looking during the bear market for the gems that will really take off in the next cycle. What are your thoughts? What are the things that will really run in the next cycle? What areas or what use cases or what fields? Do you have any thoughts about this?
Yeah, I can take that one first. I mean, for me, in general, I have some bags of the existing coins, but I think the big opportunity, it is going to be the new ones. The first cycle. I mean, that at least what worked well for me in the last bull market. Matic is a good example. It was a new cycle. Solana also is a good example. And in terms of probabilities, new coins, they just have a bigger upside in the first cycle. They don't have bag holders. They don't have like resistance levels because the price is new. That's why it's good to launch in a bear market. So when the price pumps, you don't have any of this like old resistance stuff in the chart. So that's my general strategy. Having some good gems from the past, but most of the opportunity, I think, are in coins that are maybe not even created yet. Because as soon as Bitcoin starts going up, we will see a lot of projects coming out. Everyone now is sitting tight. They don't want to announce. They don't want to become public. But I think we need to be. It's like asking in 2019 which coins are going to do well in 2020, 2021 when Solana is not even out. Like Matic still in the under the shadows for most people. So I would watch the market like a hawk and wait until bullish times, because then you're gonna see more clearly which new ones are positioned in a good way.
But do you have any favorite areas? Gaming, DeFi, AI?
No, because all of them will do well. I just look, that's why we've built Morales Money, where we just look on chain, what's getting buy pressure, where are the whales, where are the different other metrics in terms of on-chain demand. But then once you have some coins that do well, then you can follow other similar coins in the same category. And that's what we're adding now, that using AI and all of these different tools, we can categorize all coins based on their website. It's gonna launch very soon. It's gonna be very useful. So it makes sense. Once you have a trend, like you need to identify the trend, like this the Telegram bot, for example, it was a trend. So you know that Unibot pumps, okay, And now you see another Telegram bot coin minting. In Olco season, this will work well. Now, I mean, market is down now, so everything is more difficult. But I personally don't have like a preference, because we recycle all of these narratives. It's AI, and then it's gaming, and it's like with the Larsson line. You don't take an opinion, you just react. You see it's blue, it's yellow, and the same. I'm watching the altcoins in the same way. I don't have a preference. I want to see the trend.
James, what are your thoughts for the next season?
Well, I go back to the same basics. Scarcity of Bitcoin and institutions coming and new accounting rules and everything else. It all leads to a very exciting cycle. But the most important thing is the fact that we are going to hit a cycle for the first time ever where the available supply has shrunk a lot compared to the last cycle. Like, we've gone from available supply, last halving was about 1.36 or 13.6 million Bitcoin. We are looking at about, a lot less this time around, according to the Rational Root, which has really, really great stuff. So what's going to happen when 95% or 90% or 79% or 85% of people are hodling, waiting for the price action to happen, and somebody comes in and tries to place a bid when only maybe 5% are willing to sell? This is what's crazy. And a lot of people are talking about maybe there's some type of psyop operation right now with Bitcoin. BlackRock needs to fill their bags, and other institutions. So they're trying to bring the price down, and retail is participating. But it's just, I scratch my head, and who would sell at this level, knowing that the future is bright? Selling at 25 when you think it's going to 18 or 15 and a half again, when April 2024, it's probably going to be somewhere between $35,000 and $42,000. So that's my take. It's simple. We'll see where it all goes.
And we're not dead yet, guys. We're right at support.
Yep, 25K.
Yeah. So.
And every time it dips down there, you got people buying. So it's looking pretty strong. But again, something could happen. There could be U.S. government is looking to sell some Bitcoin. The Mt. Gox we spoke about, they've been threatening to sell September, October for quite some time. FTX has a Bitcoin bag and an Ethereum bag. They could dump a little bit too of next week or two. There's many options, but I think what's probably going to happen is if Galaxy, like Mike Novogratz, has all this crypto, his charter is to sell it at the best price. He's not going to dump it on the market. He's going to sell it OTC. Hey, BlackRock, you want to buy 10,000 Bitcoin? Let's do a deal. That's how it's going to work. So it's not even going to, markets aren't even going to see it. So what you see in your trading view chart for Bitcoin doesn't represent what's happening behind the curtain. So everybody always be paranoid. Think about what's happening with the kind of masters behind the curtain. You're not privy to that. And there are games being played all the time. So.
Absolutely. I'm excited. Something happening here. Either it's going to bounce here, and this is like a scam dump, and then perhaps they run it a little bit further down to trigger everyone's stop loss and run up, or we're going to go, or it breaks for real, retest and fail and goes much lower, then we will get even better prices. So I'm excited something finally happening. It has been so boring for so long. Finally, some action. Any final questions, guys, or any other thoughts from any of you?
Oh, exciting. Some things are going up really fast right now in the market, and some things are falling down. So it's, I think the big message is the narrative this year was AI. And the $1 million question was, does the AI narrative surpass the crypto narrative? And the answer is absolutely yes. But crypto will have its day in the sun. When that comes, I'm not sure, but it's going to be sometime between now and the next 4 months. And then we're going to see a really good time. So that's my view of the world. All of this stuff happening in September, it's noise or an opportunity, depending if you have cash or not.
Yep. Oh, and congrats, James, on the Tesla move today.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So,
chart.
Thanks, guys, for discussing a lot of topics. We talked about price, price cycles. We talked about some key obstacles for mass adoption, user friendliness for the whole ecosystem, self-custody, and also security, privacy, and those kind of things. And it's thank you, market, for making some big moves while we're having shows. We get some action. And yeah, next week will be on your channel, James, is it?
Ivan's channel next week. But Ivan, maybe...
I'm away next week, but next week we're on my channel.
Okay.
That's great.
More travel.
If you're not...
More
if you're not already...
then I can sit down.
Yeah. Don't forget, guys, to subscribe to James and Ivan's channels if you're not already, but of course you are. And links in the description.
And
Thank
and
you,
I'm
Mark.
sorry, one final thought as well. I'm sorry, everybody, the market's tanking, but it will come back. So everything is temporary. The overall
it's the
direction
movements in the market that is the opportunity. If it deterministically went in a straight line up, it would never happen because everyone would know exactly what was going to happen. It's the unpredictability and the movement that is the opportunity. So we'll be happy, guys, that there's action. The only time you can't make money is if it's completely flat. So let's enjoy the volatility. Exciting days ahead. We will soon find out if this is a fake or a actual dump.
Exactly.
Smash the likes, guys. See you
Thanks,
next week.
everybody. Have a great week.
See you guys.
See you. Bye, Ivan.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, CTO.